Welcome to Paradigm Shift, the podcast where we break down the latest in low code. I'm your host, Jon, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Scott. And this week, we're talking about mentorship. Why is it important, and what's worked for us? So let's jump in. Scott, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm trying to really put forward my sexy 70s dad vibes with my 70s shirt. And my wife always makes fun of me. Every time I wear this shirt, my wife always makes fun of me. And I insist that it's cool. And I know this because I saw it at Target on the mannequin all dressed up. So if it's at Target on the mannequin, it's got to be cool with the kids.
70s sexy vibes are in right now. Yeah, I would say so.
Is 70s in? I can't tell. I know 90s are in.
Yeah, exactly. That's what makes me feel really old is like Genco jeans and like what else are making a comeback, and it's like, oh yeah. Okay, I remember these things. They're like vintage though now, and I was like, don't feel old enough for my childhood to be vintage, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
I just can't tell if repping the 70s, if that was just like a blip. Like, did I miss the boat? Are we on to the 90s now? Am I aging myself by just trying to hold on to something that's already passed?
Yeah, I feel like you're definitely that guy who's like, what? You're wearing that, however you would describe that 70s shirt. Like that's so what, the old people wear. I don't know what it
I should have gone no t-shirt. I should have just went straight hairy chest. Like I feel style is that you just have to embrace it, right?
Yeah, certainly.
Anyway, speaking of sexy old dads, let's talk about mentors. What kind of mentors did you have? So I wanted to get into, so we've both had mentors.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Certainly, most people I think have had some mentor within their life, but specifically in software development or anything that you might consider a craft or profession, people will have some mentors that really held their hand and showed them the way. What was your story? How did you first, Scott? What was it like for you getting into software development in the beginning? Were you on your own for a while? Did you latch on to somebody, a senior who could show you the ropes? Let's start there.
Yeah, I definitely took a pretty non-traditional path into the career of being a software developer. I got interested in software through tinkering, through electronics projects. So my background, I studied automotive technology. And so I was introduced to electronics and computer control systems and things like that through that traditional education. That didn't introduce me to software. I found software through programming Arduinos. And so when I think about that period of my career development, I didn't have any mentors. And so I didn't, you're always like, and at that point too, I was also like just combing the internet, trying to find solutions for problems that I was having or trying to understand, what's the best way to build these things as I was learning C++ back then. I didn't really have a mentor in software development, I think, until I went through a full stack software development boot camp. There's one of the instructors there comes to mind who I would call a mentor. And he was really one of these people that you could ask and debate with, right? It wasn't like dogmatic. I hate kind of when mentors come across as dogmatic, like, oh, like thou shall do it this way because that's what I said. I like mentors that will debate with you and have like a conversation about why you should do it this way and give you examples. Yeah, and so that's the first person I think I had in my career who was a software mentor. I still keep up with him. He's a great resource. We still have great debates around software. But that was in traditional development, right? We talk a lot about JavaScript, and now we talk a lot about Kotlin and Java and some of these technologies. My first Mendix mentor, we actually were just chatting with him earlier today, Paul Moose. I worked with him at Time Series, and he was also a great mentor. And still, you can see, just with the conversations that we had with him earlier, he's always like, I could be wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. We'll debate it, right? And that's what I think makes a good mentor. And those are the qualities that I've had in good mentors in software development. Yeah, what about you, Jon? What was your intro to software development? Did you have a good mentor when you were first getting started?
I didn't have a mentor when I started I, like you, fooled around on my own and looked to examples just like on the web, like almost had like, like virtual mentors of like, people on like YouTube or people who are writing blog posts, right? Like I would just like, take from them and learn from them. Um, Later, when I first got into Mendix, I was building stuff on my own, probably the wrong way, 9 times out of 10. But I got linked up with I consider a mentor, which we brought in the company that I was with, Latitude, brought in a consultant to help mentor and to help guide and just to augment some of our development power. And Mike Kumpf from Brook Trout was definitely senior to me, had a lot of experience, and was patient and kind enough to sit through me explaining my code and in the nicest way possible suggested different things to do. Um, I would consider him like my first mentor. I look at mentors like a good mentor is also a good parent. They're almost one in the same, and just in the way that like you have differing parenting styles, and each have different pros and cons. You have kind of strict, straight to the point, no nonsense styles, which has its own benefits. You're not going to garner any. You might garner some resentment, and you won't maybe not not get any love, but you'll get your point across. And it's like I largely see to generalize entire population, Dutch senior programmers very straight to the point and come off sometimes well, abrasive, because they're unafraid to just mess around with American feelings.
Well,
And that has its own, that I actually like that.
I do too. Yeah.
I really like that. I like that because also I like to bring it back to food, as I always do. I love East Coast eateries because they're always like no nonsense.
Mhm.
Like, what the fuck do you want? What do you want to order? Like, you haven't figured out, get the fuck to the back of the line. Like, I love that.
Yeah, that was an experience. I remember being in a McDonald's on the East Coast and having that experience of just like, here in small town, Colorado, everyone's like, "Oh, how's your day going? What would you like to eat today?" And it's everyone's so friendly. I remember being in that McDonald's, just like, "What do you want?" It's like, "What? What do you want?" And I do appreciate though the no nonsense approach to anything, right? Asking for feedback or giving feedback. I think culturally, and this is like what I would hear from most of my early mentors in Mendix were Dutch guys, and they definitely were no nonsense. And I think as being an American culturally, we're, our stereotype is that we are not good at saying what we mean, right? Or not getting straight to the point. There's lots of like fluffy, nice, like, oh, like you could have done that better, rather than just like, oh, that was garbage. Here's the reason that it was garbage. Here's how you should do it differently next time. And I think that ability as mentee to be able to separate personal attacks from attacks on your work, I think is a skill that's definitely worth developing, right? So if somebody comes in and says, "Oh, your code is garbage," that doesn't mean you are garbage. It's not a personal attack on you, but sometimes it can definitely feel that way. And I think that was in my professional career, learning how to be mentored is like set your personal, like try to disconnect your work from you as a person, right? Obviously they're interconnected, right? You did that work. It means something to you. But if I think to be objective about feedback that you're getting, you have to be able to kind of separate yourself from your work. And that would be, my recommendation if you are being mentored right now, or if you're looking to grow in your career, don't take hard feedback that someone gives you about your work personally. And I think that'll put you in a mindset where you're able to grow your work because you are able to not react emotionally to someone criticizing your work.
And it's a fine line to walk, I think, at being in the senior position of giving feedback in a straightforward way that you want to make sure that's not also going to be, like taken personally to them.
Yeah.
Dutch may not care as much as I do about it, but I definitely it speaks to like just a confidence to be able to say, yeah, that's garbage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
But
you got to know your stuff, right? Because those are like battle words. Like that's trash. Like
yeah.
it's almost as if you're saying like give me a rebuttal. Like, come back at me. Like it proved to me that it's not. It's a challenge, and people either they run away or they meet it, and either you can justify it or you don't. But it's a scary, high pressure situation to be in if you are a younger dev, and you're like, oh God, like like he's saying my code is trash. Like it's a scary position to be in. I remember so. Um, we I I'll just say him by name. Mitchell Mole at Blue Green. He's the CTO, co-owner of Blue Green. He's someone, let me preface this, someone who I enormously respect. And I consider him, while I was at EXP, to be a mentor of mine, whether he knew it or not. But I joined the RevShare project, of which he was the lead. He was the only developer there. And I used to be scared sometimes to go into a code review, and eventually just that wore off. Like but definitely initially it's like I wasn't around super senior devs, especially of his caliber.
Mhm.
And then so joining his team is very intimidating. I fell out of my depth, and
Yeah.
getting your code, we did practice group code reviews, and getting it critiqued and criticized was an intimidating experience by anybody, no less than someone who was straightforward as Mitchell was. But I really came to respect it, and I valued not just that, but it's like that element of fear. Fear is very motivational. It's like, and it drove me to write better code because I wanted
Yeah.
to make sure that I was trying to like that trying that drill sergeant approach was like, make sure I want to make sure that my lines are tight, and my boots are shiny, like all the details
Yeah.
are perfect. Because that's what that type of coaching will drive you to do.
Yeah, I think that is definitely a way to level up a team. And I think the best analogy that I've heard about how you should run a high performing software team is like you would run a professional sports team, right? Like I hate oh, we're a family analogy. I hate that analogy just because you don't like you treat your family in a very, very different way than you would like your colleagues that you're expecting to be able to perform at a high level. And so I think when you're on a code review or when you're being mentored or when you're a mentor, the important thing is to realize that like the feedback that you're given in those code reviews is a gift, right? They like that is someone trying to go out of their comfort zone to be very direct and give you like very no nonsense feedback. So I think it goes both ways. Like it's a gift to be a mentee and given that direct feedback. But yeah, you were going to say something.
I completely agree with everything you said. It's not always transferable outside of a professional setting. And I
Right.
know this from very recent experience because my wife, and I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, my wife has been in the throes of making her own website, and she rarely asks for me to help. So when she asks for my help, I'm really into giving her feedback. And I don't even think she actually asked me for help. She was just showing me her site. And to me, as you said, I was giving her a gift. I was giving her a gift of my feedback. And I was saying everything that I noticed that was wrong with it. And I was saying, I don't like that. You can't read that. The spacing's off. So it's not consistent. And she took that as like let's just say, uh, bedtime was rough. It was there wasn't it was we had a little bit of a fight, and we had to do some reconciling. But it made me realize that, like, because I was trying to, with my man brain, I was like, oh, I'm giving you a gift of my feedback. This is how I would talk to anybody on my team professionally.
Yeah.
But she quickly reminded me that she was not on my team, that she was my wife. And so just a anecdote.
Sort of on that same train of thought, how do you handle giving unsolicited advice or getting unsolicited advice on your code, right? I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I handle it. I'll be completely honest. It's hard not to have an ego, with, I think, anything, especially things that you create. And so when I get feedback, depending on what that feedback is, I usually I may have like an emotional response to it initially. but but I usually, my brain will like override that, remind myself, this is not, this is help. I should be listening. This is what is going to help my code. This is, this isn't to be taken personally. So sometimes there is that initial emotional feedback, but I always tamp that down. But I don't deny that it's not there. But I always try to see it for what it is, and not infer any other intention.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, I mean, I definitely will take unsolicited advice if it comes. I try not to overstep my bounds, as you know, especially if it's like not someone that's on your team. If I think about, I think sometimes it's good to wait for someone to come to you for advice. So this would be my,
Hmm.
more of my advice as a mentor. Sometimes if you give unsolicited advice, especially if it's something that's nitpicky or
Mm-hmm.
inconsequential, those are the kinds of examples where I think that you can actually do more harm by
Yeah.
giving these unsolicited, like, hey, you should have named that thing differently or better, especially if it's like, I don't know, a matter of an opinion. I think that can be kind of detrimental to a mentor or mentee kind of relationship, is if you're giving nitpicky unsolicited advice. So I would say try to avoid that.
I think that takes experience to know what is nitpicky, what is not.
Hmm.
And it's really easy to go down the path of micromanagement.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
whether they ask for it or not, like, even if they do ask for the advice, like, yeah, can you help me with this? Sometimes, often, I have to stop myself because I just like control. I like it
Hmm.
consistent how I like it. And there's some merit to that, to having consistency among your
Sure.
code base. But like, I do recognize there are some things that I do that are just sometimes just like kind of almost just neurotic tendencies
Yeah.
of how I space things, or how I color my activities orange,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and I have the same. I have a lot of the same tendencies.
So recognizing what can be thrown out, what's actually valuable, that's key to mentoring somebody. So you're not just a micromanaging prick. You're actually giving them some solid advice that they can use.
Yeah,
What else doesn't work?
does not
What
work.
have you noticed any terrible mentors? Some people just are not built to mentor. Can we say that? Like,
Yeah,
like,
man. I think of a mentor that I had when I was in school, when I was studying on him. His approach to mentoring was just belittling, and it did, like, we talk about don't take criticism of your work personally, but on the flip side of that, as a mentor, don't attack your mentee on a personal level. And I think that is one of the things that I have seen in mentorship sometimes, when it becomes toxic and is a really really bad relationship. And I've not just seen that, I've seen that also um, other times in my career as a software developer, where the feedback crosses a boundary from, hey, the way that you put this piece of code together, or the logic that you put together here is nonsensical, to, you are, where it starts to become an attack on a
hmm
person, right? And I think
yeah,
that is because what that does, just like you were talking about, right, it's uncomfortable, and it can feel scary when someone is attacking your work. It is scary, not that crosses a boundary when it becomes an attack on you, like, as a person. Oh, you're a terrible developer, or oh, you really suck at your job. So I think when you're sitting in the it's a position of power, being a mentor, like, whether it's an official position of power per your title, or if it's just your non-official position because people come and seek advice from you. Like, whatever way you look at it, you're a leader, you're in a position of power, and you should be very very careful not to abuse that position of power that you're in, right? And I've seen it go awry when people abuse that position of power, just like in any other position of power, right? So being a mentor is a position of power, and treat it like that. Be respectful of the people that you are mentoring, and don't attack them, the person. Attack the habits or the bad work that person is producing.
yeah. And I think I do stick with that. Just some people just are not good at it, don't have the skills, haven't learned those skills,
Hmm.
would probably be bad parents if that's how they motivate. Yeah, but I've seen that a lot. And sometimes, so when you get, as you progress down your career, I think being a mentor is often part and parcel with your job description the higher up you go.
Mhm.
People management, so whether you're gonna go into, seems like there's usually a fork in the road as a developer, you get to being like a principal and stuff like that, or you're gonna go down into like go to like engineering, like management, go to start to go up, the management ladder. Both of them though, management to some degree, you're dealing with people.
Mhm.
You're trying to get the best out of people. Principal developers, staff developers, they're usually involved in mentoring to some degree. And so it's just it's a super important skill to have.
Yeah.
And it's something that you should be paying attention to because you're going to encounter it at some point. And if you don't invest the time now into those skills, those interpersonal skills, trying to figure out what motivates other people,
Mhm.
and you can start by just by looking internally and asking yourself, what would I want?
Yeah.
Um, and go from there. But it's an essential skill.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a fallacy in that career fork that, oh, I don't like to work with people. I don't want to mentor people. I don't want to, be that person. There's only so far that you can take your career as an individual contributor. Like there's like this fallacy of the 10x programmer. If I just get
Mhm.
really, really, really good technically, I'll have such a big impact that, I'll be able to have infinite growth in my career. And I don't think that that actually really happens. There's definitely people I've seen that work really fast, and there's people that I've seen that can definitely have a oversized impact. But the people that have the biggest impact are the people that are able to take a group of people and make those people more productive. And I think that should be your goal as a mentor, right? It's not tearing people down, it's not asserting your authority. It's helping people change their habits or change the way that they think about problems so that they're more efficient, and your work with those people will grow long past what you can do as an individual person by honing your technical skills.
Yeah, contrary to popular thinking, programming, software development is it's a team game. You're almost never going to be just by yourself unless like 100% of the time.
Mhm.
You join a company, you're going to be on a team. Maybe if you're doing freelance in some way, like you're on Fiverr or something or Upwork or something, and like you just take jobs and bust them out. Maybe you could do that for forever, but that's not most people.
Yeah.
So
But I also think you're all like in those kinds of roles where you are just by yourself. There's a ceiling to the amount of impact you can really have at a company, or, so on and so forth.
this might be a dumb question, but why do we need mentorship? At its core, why does it exist? Why do we need it? And does software development need it?
Yeah, I definitely think that it's a valid I think you do need software development mentors. Um what's interesting about software development, like, so there's well known that there's apprenticeship programs for the trades, right? Like you need to learn how to run a table saw. Like someone is going to show you how to run a table saw. You can't just read about using a table saw and now suddenly you're proficient at it. I think software is slightly different just because there's really no, I mean, I guess it definitely depends on the software you're writing, but there's no physical risk to writing software, right? Like, I mean, it depends on like, again, it depends on the system that you're building. But um, I think the advantage to having mentors is you can learn from their mistakes, or you can learn from their guidance, and you don't have to figure all of those things out on your own. And I think in the absence of a mentor, what tends to happen, and I think about my work that I've done, early in my career when I didn't have a mentor, I made all of the classic mistakes of building software. My code was tangled together. It wasn't maintainable. It wasn't scalable. I didn't have anyone to kind of poke me and say, hey, like, you're going to regret making, you know, those design choices down the road. So I think like in software, yeah, you're not going to cut your finger off if you do it wrong, but having a mentor will definitely help keep you from making, the classic common mistakes. You're still going to have to make your own mistakes on your own, but yeah, I think especially if you have a good mentor, they'll kind of, hey, don't go down that road. It's not a road that leads to a good place.
Yeah, I agree. And it's not that not having a mentor is just going to make things come to a halt. I don't think it's required,
Mhm.
but I do think that having mentors is going to inspire the best out of everyone around them.
Yeah.
We're so humans are social animals. And what it really is it's really just cutting learning curve.
Mm.
It used to be just like, hunter gatherers and some guy would be like, yeah, don't eat those berries. Like, but now it's like, especially in crafts, and I consider software development a craft where there is just so much knowledge to be had. It's hard for any one person on their own to really keep that all in.
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier of a time to learn by way of collective knowledge or knowledge that someone else has learned before you. It's just you take a shorter path to getting to where you want to go when you have a mentor around.
Yeah, I think the other part of that, it's almost like we're on the flip side of where there's too much information out there and anyone can be an expert. And I think a mentor can help you cut through the noise if they are actually truly an expert in the thing that you're learning from them. Because what I also find happens is like if you go on, think of I'm a super junior software developer. I don't know where to go and get information. I'm just gonna go on Stack Overflow or go Google something and whatever,
Mhm.
whatever article I find, I'm going to take as the correct path. There's just so much bad information out there or bad advice from people that are quote unquote experts that I think having a true expert at your disposal is really really valuable. So someone that you have a personal relationship with that understands the context of the problem that you're solving, they can actually steer you down the right path. I think is really really valuable. Um,
Let me ask you an interesting question. Let's assume, as a thought experiment for a second, that AI, say ChatGPT,
mhm.
that whatever you might ask it would give you an accurate and true response. Let's just make that assumption first.
Okay.
Then could you use an AI as an adequate mentor? And if you could, what would you lose from someone in person?
Yeah, I mean, I think the hard part for me with this question is this assumption that you can actually get like 100% valid information. But okay, I'll set that aside. You were just going to say
Let's
it.
say it'll get there
Okay,
one day.
all
Let's just
right.
say we don't know when, but let's just say it
Yeah,
will.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think there is. So it's just like, that human connection. I mean, like, I enjoy sitting down and drinking coffee with a colleague and debating a problem, right? I think there's like a very primal herd mentality. Like I enjoy the social aspect of having a person that I know and relate to on a personal level to debate these things with. So there's a social aspect to it that it would be hard to replace. Like functionally, could you get away with not having a mentor if you had an AI that could, you know, give you reliable, good advice? Sure. I mean, I don't think you have to have a mentor, but I think for me being a human and enjoying like being a human, I like to talk to other humans. I want a human mentor. I kind of find that chatting with AI is pretty hollow. So for just me being me, I want to have people in a community that I can talk to and learn from and teach. Does that make me better or worse as a software developer? I don't know. I think yeah, I think you could probably fill that void pretty well with AI.
I get that. I understand that. And that's hard to quantify the benefit. Like if we're saying it that if we agree that a mentor gets you, shortens your learning curve, teaches you lessons that they've learned,
Hmm.
all of those things are benefits, all the technical knowledge that they are sharing, those are the benefits of having a good mentor. But all of that is like just data that they're carrying with them,
Yeah.
and that an AI could very just as well probably say it to you. And then what are you left with? You're left with a human connection. You're left with, I don't know, just your own internal happiness
Hmm.
of interacting with somebody else.
Yeah. I think yeah. I keep coming back to like, yes, you could if the AI if AI was at a spot where it didn't like my problem with this like theoretical kind of discussion is like sorry, just like you do get like I just find oftentimes when you are asking AI, hey, look at this, help tell me what you think of this, and it'll give you just total nonsense because whatever it didn't the context was incorrect or you gotta remember these things at the end of the day are just statistical models. So if it doesn't have
Yeah.
the right inputs, it will give you outputs that are total garbage. And so I think like that can lead to, if you're relying on a system, like it's just like, think of it as like an untrustworthy human, right? Somebody, you should inject bleach in your veins to cure your, whatever disease that you have, right? If you're relying on an unreliable source of information, it could also be detrimental to your career learning and your understanding of the problems that you're solving. So that's how I view AI, right? It's like definitely a resource, but you also kind of have to be a little bit leery of sometimes the information that it will spit out, because it's not an expert. It is a statistical model.
Yeah. But tomorrow, give it
Yeah,
time,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a different discussion, but yeah, I do see the value. I think AI will definitely be able to offset some of the heavy lift for mentors, right? So if you have a mentor, you can maybe use AI, and then you can go to your mentor and say, "Hey, this is what I think would be the best way to address this problem. What's your opinion on that?" And they can tell you.
I think that, and I'll do this argument for you, that what I admire a lot about and what I learn from mentors is how they go about their decision making. You don't get that from AI, but because it's what you're looking often is not just the data that they say, but it's how they came about approaching a problem. And sometimes those things are just pure data problems, problems like, math problems. Sometimes, often there are human problems, interpersonal problems. But that's what I get from a lot from mentors, is how they came to decide and how they,
Right.
handled making those decisions, which is not something like, okay, like that's not something you could glean from an AI mentor. You,
No, because the AI mentor hasn't had any experiences. I mean, the thing that I see about it is like there's always the cautionary tale, or like when a mentor gives you a piece of advice, right? There's always a piece that comes after that of like they probably made that mistake. They can tell you the story of making that mistake, how it panned out, and how they like came to the conclusion that the advice that they're giving you is the correct path. Um,
yeah,
yeah.
they ate the berries and they got the shits. They know
Yes,
not to eat those. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've had some mentors that weren't just like a professional or weren't technical mentors, but I've had
Yeah.
mentors too where I just admired like how they handled things, like people like managing a business.
Yeah.
I cherry pick from the people in my life of things that I thought people were good at. And like, okay, I want to adopt that,
Yeah. I think the thing that we've talked about this on other podcasts, but software development is not just technical details, right? So much of software development is influencing people, convincing people that you have the right ideas. And I think I've watched, other people that I would consider mentors handle these kinds of situations, and you can learn a lot about the subtleties of how to influence people and how to correctly, make people come along with you. And I don't think you can learn that from chatting with an AI. I mean, maybe it can give you, oh, here's the 10 things you should try when trying to influence people. But until you like watch those things in practice, I think that's the thing you do miss from just, pure data, is you don't get that same. Humans learn by watching other humans. I mean, I think at the end of the day, I'm watching my son
Yeah.
right now imitate the things that I do, and it's just so programmed into the way that we learn is imitation and learning by watching other humans. And I think that really is what you get out of a human mentor, is that just easy path for learning, or like the whatever the evolutionary track we have for learning that way.
What do you think of this concept of service? This is a universal concept of giving something back, doing some service for your community, your family, your government, your country. And I think, and this is my thesis. Let me know what you think. I think that it is your responsibility once you get to a certain level, especially in software development, a certain level of expertise, that it is your duty to then unload that knowledge to to help other people.
Yeah.
And not just is it your responsibility to do so, but it's a path to your own internal happiness to do that, to
Yeah.
help people, to help to serve your immediate surroundings in that way.
Yeah, I definitely think that it is valuable, not just in the, kind of transactional, maybe transactional is not the right word, but it's not a one-way street is what I'm trying to say. It's not like, oh my goodness, I'm just drained from teaching people because they're, I'm just like it's a thing that I have to do. It does I definitely get a lot of fulfillment out of doing training and sharing my knowledge. And it's not necessarily just just with software, but I think the thing that is valuable about that beyond it just and this is like getting into maybe more like that's what makes societies advance is that transfer of knowledge from generation to generation, right? I mean, like that's how humanity moves forward. It's not, otherwise you think of like how hard would it be to live in a world if you didn't have any of that generational knowledge passed on. You would have to make every single mistake yourself to learn the consequences of it. So I think, yeah, I mean, I think it's again, it's like programmed into our DNA to feel warm and fuzzy when we're transferring our knowledge, and that's what's helped humanity to grow and thrive in the state that it is now. It's just like generation upon generation have transferred the knowledge through mentorship that they have grown.
It really is a part of our DNA, I believe. As a younger man, I wouldn't have believed it. I would have just thought, like, oh, that sounds stupid.
Yeah.
But it's in your face all the time as being a parent now myself and you as well. I'm sure
Yeah.
like when you see that there's a unique fulfillment that you get when when you see someone succeed because of something that you've given them.
Hmm.
And it's nice to see. I just love seeing people excel and knowing that I've helped them in some way
Hmm.
to get there. That's just personally really fulfilling.
Yeah.
I think it's needed for everybody. I think everybody should be doing that. And it just, it makes us, like you said, it really makes the world go round. It's just uniquely human. We get a bad rap for being selfish,
Who does?
and humans in general of just like, I think just like, okay, we do things for ourselves. We consume a lot and we're destroying our world, and a whole laundry list of how we're just our selfishness is ruining things. But on the flip side, in some ways we're uniquely not. Like where we give with our kids, with our family, and our local community, whatever it is. If you're in a religion and you're going to church, or if you're just participating with the homeless, or you are a senior program engineer and you're just you're sharing knowledge with your lowers, there's just something there to be said about how we're able to just to give and feel good about it. That really contrasts how selfish and ego driven we are sometimes. So we probably got, I think I got a lot deeper than we needed to, but that's inevitably where everything goes when you deconstruct it
Yeah.
enough. And is there anything more to say on mentors, Scott?
I don't think so. My only suggestion would be if you have knowledge that's valuable in your organization, find a way to share it, right? I mean, I think there's lots
Hmm.
and lots of different ways to do that. And the hard part is it takes a little bit of work to do that, right? But I think that people, I mean, every organization that I've worked in, the work that I've put in to doing workshops or mentoring sessions or code reviews, right? It's like that work is fulfilling, right? I mean, just for all the reasons that we just talked about, it feels really good to share your knowledge. So if you're one of those people that has knowledge to be shared, yeah, put a little bit of effort and share that knowledge. Do a workshop, do a code review, spend a little bit of time talking about the things that you've learned. Yeah, and on the flip side of that, if you're someone looking for a mentor, ask. Try to find someone that you can kind of latch onto that makes you feel good and that you're learning from.
Yeah, there's a number of things that I think you should. Well, one thing that you said that I want to respond to. You've spent a lot of work to become an expert on something.
Mhm.
Why not use that in some way? Like you spent all this work to become an expert in software development. Why not now, walk into the room, like be the fucking man, get in the room and be like, hey, that's how you do that. Hey, that's how you do it. You have this so built up social currency now. Like put it to good use. Why wouldn't you? Everyone's gonna love you. You're like you have all this knowledge to share. So put what you know to use, practice humility. That's on
Yeah.
both sides.
Yeah.
That's on both sides. Put away the ego, practice humility. It's the worst, as we've noted before on this pod, of like having people who think they know everything, and maybe they do know a lot, but are so hard-headed to never admit that they're wrong. That needs to go. If you're going to be a good mentor, because it's in the same vein of being a good parent. Like, kids are going to know when you're talking bullshit or you're just speaking confidently of something that you don't really know the answer to. Like, like, don't bullshit things. Speak confidently, but be open to the idea that you might be wrong. That will encourage helpful conversation among, or dialogue, or a back and forth exchanging of ideas. So it's just not just a one-way street. So practice humility, share what you know. And what else? Am I missing a couple others? I'm sure I am. It's not just those two, but be kind, be patient. Don't cross that line into personal territory.
Yeah.
You can be firm, you can be even, maybe even a little harsh when describing some things, but don't let it seep into how you describe the other person personally, because remember, we're all insecure. If you are a senior, you were insecure, you are insecure at some level. We all are, and pushing that button gets us nowhere. So keep that in mind. Kindness, everybody. Practice kindness and everything will be all right. That I think that does it for us today. Go be a mentor. Go tell your mentor that you love them.
Yeah.
They may not be around forever. You don't know. AI is coming to take all our jobs. So get familiar with that. Find the AI that you like or enjoy if you want to adopt an AI mentor. And if not, I don't know. Go find a human one somewhere. And we'll see you guys. Oh, before we end, sorry. We have events coming up. I wanted to not forget to mention these again. I'm going to mention these every episode, so get used to it. You can skip now if you already heard it. But we have a meetup coming up in Denver, July 18th, Friday, July 18th. In Denver, it's going to be a meetup, test automation with some AI stuff. It'll be really fun. It'll be at a golf sim place. Great. We'll swing some clubs. We'll learn about QA. We'll learn about automating things with AI end to end. Really cool. I'll have the link for the meetup soon, I promise. The next one is we have our CTF, the Capture the Flag event. That's being hosted by Mendix, Blue Green, Low Code Academy, S Unit. If I missed one, I'm sorry. We are hosting the official US America's host location. It's the only location in the US in Hollywood, October 8th and 9th. Register at mendix.com/CTF, lowercase CTF. Register now. We're trying to get the registrations in. We only have a certain amount of seats, so you need to register now. But it's going to be the biggest event of the year. I'm telling you, we're pouring in a lot of resources, a lot of time to make this a kick-ass event. I want you to show up, and I want to see you there. So those two things. All right, that's it. Next week, we'll see you next week on Thursday. And until then, have a great weekend and have a great week.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.